Hello. So, we are currently reading Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, which is a book I found in a thrift store in England. It is part of a trilogy covering the first 200 years of the colonizations of Mars, told from various perspectives. We are on Maya chapter. I just dropped the bookmark again. We're on Maya chapter, which is also known as part 2. Part 1 was Festival Night, and it was celebrating the first Mars city called Nova Scotia. No, it's something like Newman or Norway. Marstown. It's called Marstown, and it's the first town on Mars. And they're doing their festival. And then Buzz Aldrin started a race war. And Maya was there, and she was being, like, all aloof. And then, record scratch, we went back in time. Not time travel, just like a flashback, or, like a reverse. Or that was a flash forward to, like, the first city. And now we're back to the very first people. The first man on Mars was John Boone. And the second man... Actually, I don't know. I think from the context clues, Frank hasn't been to Mars yet. I think him and John did a lot to, like, get people to Mars, and John was the first man on Mars. And Frank Chalmers either hasn't been to Mars, or he was, like, he went to Mars afterwards, or he's going to Mars now, though. He's going with the first 100. The 100. You got that, guys? The 100. The original 300. And that's where we are now. Except it's being told from the perspective of Russian temptress Maya Toitovna. Maya. Excellent. Thank you for listening. Twat Nova. Frank is like Khan, maybe? Come on, man. We don't even know what Maya did to him. How do we know that Frank's the bad guy? Apparently my name is, like, the number one name for girls in Russia. Larisa. It's very Russian. It's a bit more than... It's like Cain and Abel stuff, He murdered John. I forget. Like, I'd see. It's so hard to make a summary. I'm like, guys, I wanna hit the points, but the details are so juicy. This book's like a soap opera on Mars. It's amazing. John's going. He's being his beautiful self, and everybody's like, what an asshole, because he's blonde and he's like hot. And then Frank, he's like hot in like a different way. And then Maya is, like, really hot Russian, probably a secret agent for the communists. And then she's like, ooh, Frank is so mysterious. And then Frank is like, why would you do this to me, woman? I don't need you. And then he kills John through another person, and then he kills that person with poison so that they can't, like, provide any evidence. It's crazy. Impudent strumpet. Remember when John said that? Oh my god. I need puppets for this, totally. I actually, dude, I think I'm gonna become a finger puppet streamer every Monday. Holy shit. Okay. How do we know he's the bad guy? I'm still waiting to see what kind of a dick John is. He's rubbing me the wrong way, you know? I mean, he's dead now, but maybe he deserved it. Impudent nymphs. Technically, he dies in 2061. He's doing just fine now. And Mikhail Duboskovsky is the villain. He's the psychiatrist. Because if you send 100 scientists with an average age of 45 years old to Mars, you definitely need a psychiatrist. So where we left off last week was with our favorite character, who's definitely not the villain, Arkady. I think it's probably pronounced Arkady. I don't know. Arkady. I've been calling him Arkady. And he is the game master. He is the dungeon master. Because on their flight to Mars, like after they went through the selection process in Antarctica, now the first 100 are going to Mars. They're on their way. And it's kind of boring, but it's also fucking awesome. And everybody's hype. And like 30 to 40 years old. And Arkady is in charge of like the simulation runs that they do to prepare for like D-Day when they launch they land. 100 or 101. They say 100, but the way like the context clues, I feel like Michelle is not really accepted as one of them. They're just the psychologist, you know? No, they don't. They call it Collision Day. No, well, that's where we left off, is like Arkady was running the simulations and they're trying to land on the planet. They're trying to avoid colliding on the planet. Like, you don't want to hit Mars in the wrong way. You also don't want to like bounce off of it and shoot off into never-ending space. So he runs all these fun simulations, and it was getting pretty wacky. You know, he's like, what if Martians attack? And then we all die. And then he simulated going crazy. And it took 5 people to hold him down. And he's like, what are the chances? You know, one of us might go crazy. It could totally happen. Pressure, gonna drop, oh. So they kept trying. Handling the problem runs as seriously as they could. Even the attack by Martian natives, or the decoupling of Taurus H caused by explosive explosive balls. This book predated the internet by a lot, and it shows later on. Yeah, thank you. I can't wait for it to become horribly outdated. I'm already upset because I know somebody worked really hard on this book, and I don't know if this is true all the time, but I'm pretty sure Martian sunsets and sunrises are blue. And it's like a cool fact that we found out when we sent fucking the Mars rover to take pictures of it. And then when it came back, we're like, holy shit, sunsets on Mars are blue instead of red. Because on the blue planet, they're red. And on the red planet, they're blue. That's beautiful. It's poetry. But then this whole book was written before that. So it's really fucking good so far. But now when he's like, the dusky red of the bloody sunset. And I'm like, no, it's blue. It changes the whole vibe. It's very solid on, like, a lot of things. So that's what I love about... I mean, I read a lot of science fiction, so I'm used to it. Like, this shit just goes right over my head. I'm like, oh, they use oil for rockets? That's awesome. Like, gasoline for rockets? Yes. I know, baby. You're trying. The Salty Shroom. Thank you for 48 months. Okay, all right. I'm going to start ignoring chat and start diving into this book now. I'm sorry that I've lost 100 viewers already. I am not on it today. Sax. Just popping in for a quick hello before I go into a marijuana-induced slumber. And cheers to you. Sweet dreams. Even, or the couple of... Oh my God. I do this every Monday, whether I'm ready or not. Even the attack by Martian natives, or the decoupling of Taurus H caused by explosive bolts installed by mistake when the ship was built, or the last-minute veering of Phobos out of its orbit. Dealing with the more implausible scenarios sometimes took on a kind of surreal black humor, and Arkady replayed some of his videotapes as after-dinner entertainment. Which sometimes got people launched into the air with laughter. But the plausible problem runs. They kept on coming, morning after morning. And despite of the solutions, despite the protocols for finding solutions, there was that sight, time after time. The red planet rushing toward them at an unimaginable 40,000 kilometers per hour until it filled the screen and the screen went white and small black letters appeared. Collision. They were traveling to Mars in a Type 2 Hohmann ellipse, a slow but efficient course, chosen from among the other alternatives mainly because the two planets were in the correct position for it when the ship was finally ready. With Mars about 45 degrees ahead of Earth in the plane of the ecliptic. During the voyage, they would travel just over halfway around the sun, making their rendezvous with Mars some 300 days later. Their womb time, as Hiroko called it. In the womb. Whoops. their womb time, as Hiroko called it. The psychologists back home had judged it worthwhile to alter things from time to time, to suggest the passing of the seasons on the Aries. Lengths of days and nights, weather and ambient colors were shifted to accomplish this. Some had maintained their landfall should be harvest, others that it should be a new spring. After a short debate, it had been decided by a vote of the voyagers themselves to begin with early spring, so that they would travel through a summer rather than a winter, and as they approached their goal, the ship's colors would turn the autumn tones of Mars itself, rather than the light greens and blossom pastels they had left so far behind. So in those first months, as they finished their morning's business, leaving the farm or the bridge, or staggering out of Arcady's merrily sadistic simulations, they walked into springtime. Walls were hung with pale green panels, or mural-sized photos of azaleas, and jacarandas, and ornamental cherries. The barley and mustard in the big farm rooms glowed vivid yellow with new blooms, and the forest biome and the ship's 7 park rooms had been stocked with trees and shrubs in the spring of their cycles. Maya loved these colorful spring blossoms, and after her morning's work, she fulfilled part of her exercise regimen by taking a walk in the forest biome, which had a hilly floor and was so thick with trees one could not see from one end of the chamber to the other. Here she often met Frank Chalmers, of all people, taking one of his short breaks. He said he liked the spring foliage, though he never seemed to look at it. They walked together and talked, or not, as the case might be. If they did talk, it was never about anything important. Frank didn't care to discuss their work as leaders of the expedition. Maya found this peculiar, though she didn't say so. But they did not exactly have the same jobs, which might account for his reluctance. Maya's position was fairly informal and non-hierarchical. Cosmonauts among themselves had always been relatively egalitarian. This had been the tradition since the days of Korolev. The American program had a more military tradition, indicated even in titles, while Maya was merely Russian contingent coordinator. Frank was Captain Chalmers, and supposedly in the strong sense of the old sailing navies. I keep thinking about Star Trek. This is a lot like Star Trek. Almost as horny. Nothing is quite as horny as Star Trek, though. It's at least as horny as Star Trek. Frank was Captain Chalmers, and supposedly in the strong sense of the old sailing navies. Whether this authority made it more or less difficult for him, he didn't say. Sometimes he discussed the biome, or small technical problems, or news from home. More often, oh God. Sometimes he discussed the biome, or small technical problems, or news from home. More often, he just seemed to want to walk with her. So, silent walks. Up and down the narrow trails, through dense thickets of pine and aspen and birch. And always that presumption of closeness, as if they were old friends, or as if he were, very shyly or subtly, courting her. Thinking about that one day, it occurred to Maya that starting the Aries in the springtime might have created a problem. Here they were, in their mesocosm, sailing through spring, and everything was fertile and blossoming, profligate and green. The air perfumed with flowers and windy, the days getting longer and warmer. Everyone in shirts and shorts, 100 healthy animals in close quarters, eating, exercising, showering, sleeping. Of course there had to be sex. Well, it was nothing new. Maya herself had had some fantastic sex in space, most significantly during her second stint on Novi Mir, when she and Georgie and Yeli and Irina had tried every weightless variant imaginable, which was a great many indeed. But now it was different. They were older. They were stuck with each other for good. Everything is different in a closed system, Hiroko often said, in other contexts. Just giving you a moment with your imaginations. Novi Mir was known as the party space station. With a little luck, I'll still be alive in 2060. Hell yeah. Let's go, Elon. You can do it. Come on, Jeffrey, you can do it. Pave the way, put your back into it. Look at you now. Wait, because this was just on the 21st of... This was literally the 21st of November or December. Wasn't it like 2023 in the book? I think that happened. They launched to Mars. 2023, December 21st. I think it was. Because I can remember, I do remember, like, I was like, wow, that was today. And it was like the day after I read the chapter. I can't find it. This book is old too. If I flip through it too much, it might rip in half. We are very behind schedule. Okay. Sex in space. They tried every weightless variant imaginable, which was a great many indeed. But now it was different. They were older. They were stuck with each other for good. Everything is different in a closed system, as Hiroko often said in other contexts. The idea that they should stay on a fraternal basis was big at NASA. Out of the 1,348 pages of the tome NASA had compiled called Human Relations in Transit to Mars, only a single page was devoted to the subject of sex. And that page advised against it. They were, as the tome suggested, like a tribe, with a sensible taboo against intratribal mating. The Russians laughed hilariously at this. Americans were such prudes, really. We are not a tribe, Arkady said. We are the world. And it was spring. And there were married couples aboard, some of whom were very demonstrative. And there was the swimming pool in Taurus E, and the sauna, and whirlpool bath. Bathing suits were used in mixed company. This because of the Americans again, but bathing suits were nothing. Naturally, it began to happen. She heard from Nadja and Ivana that the bubble dome was being used for assignations in the quiet hours of the night. Many of the cosmonauts and astronauts turned out to be fond of weightlessness. And the many nooks in the parks and the forest biome were serving as hideaways for those with less weightlessness experience. The parks had been designed to give people the sense that they could get away. And every person had a private, soundproofed room of their own. With all that, if a couple wanted to begin a relationship without becoming an item in the gossip mill, it was possible to be very discreet. Maya was sure there was more going on than any one person could know. This is getting very steamy. I will be right back.